Hi, this is Justin. Today, I'm going to introduce you to a debate between my colleague Gavin Ashenden and an Anglican vicar, Stephen Kuhrt, over the debate about the graffiti in Canterbury Cathedral. You might have watched our earlier video about this, and it's caused a lot of outrage. Canterbury Cathedral, one of the oldest in England, established in 597 and one of the most beautiful churches in the world, has been defaced inside. The dean of the cathedral has decided that it's a great idea to put graffiti all over the walls and the pillars of the cathedral. There's a number of questions supposedly from young people that are written there, and this has raised a lot of controversy. The Vice President of the United States has called it ugly. Elon Musk has said it's horrific. So let's watch this debate and see what my colleague Gavin has to say.
We're now joined by the Vicar of Christ Church in New Malden, Stephen Kuhrt, and former chaplain to Queen Elizabeth II, Dr. Gavin Ashenden. Dr. Gavin, I'd like to start with you. I have to say I was very shocked to see this. I thought it was real graffiti at first, which I'm sure is possibly part of the idea they had to do this. But churches are not art museums. They are there to congregate and for people to share their faith. Do you think this was a good idea?
Well, I think the Dean of Canterbury has missed his vocation as somebody who ought to be in charge of a very edgy arts centre, perhaps in Brighton or somewhere like that. And, but he shouldn't be in charge of a cathedral. Cathedrals have got a task. Most of us would agree on what they are. They're supposed to represent the very best, the most beautiful, the most holy, the most transcendent, the most jaw-dropping, the most breathtaking away, so that we can get access to that aspect of the living God. There are other aspects of the living God, a relationship with Jesus, reading the Bible. But I think what he's trying to do, which is to turn something so beautiful into something accessible to the marginalised, it's a bit like drawing a moustache on the Mona Lisa in the Louvre. You just wouldn't do it.
I actually completely concur, Gavin, but Stephen, you may have a different opinion. Enlighten me. Why do you think this is a good thing, and do you think it will bring younger people perhaps into the church?
Well, look, it's clearly not to everyone's taste, and everything Gavin just said about what Christianity should be, I wholeheartedly want to endorse. But I think this is an attempt to try to connect with people's questions. And the origins of this is that young people from Generation Z, so people born between 1997 and 2012, were asked the questions they'd like to ask God. And then this artist put it into graffiti form. So it won't be to everyone's taste. It is temporary. They've made it absolutely clear that they're not endorsing vandalism. And I think it is an attempt to connect the unchanging message of Christianity with people's cultural background. So it won't be to everyone's taste, but I think it's an honest attempt to try and connect with people. And there are lots of young people coming back to church, and this is an attempt to connect.
I have no idea why the dean of this cathedral thinks graffiti represents young people. I know a lot of young people. I was young once, and I don't remember running around with a spray can. And I think he's really speaking down to young people by saying graffiti is the way to reach them. Who exactly is he talking to? Let's remember, graffiti is a crime. So what exactly is this dean trying to say, and what message is he sending?
Well, three things, very briefly. Augustine came in 597. The cathedral he built burned down, and they started again in about the 10th century. But be that as may, it's very, very old, very beautiful. I think I'd say, first of all, the Roman Catholic experience is that young people are really absolutely turning back to God. And what's really surprised everybody is that they're going to the Latin Mass. They want the mystery, the transcendence, the beauty, the extraordinariness of God that is not the kind of getting down with the kids' funky stuff that generations of old hippies thought they ought to want. So they're voting with their feet on something else. The next thing I think I'd say is that whenever I see graffiti, I say I'm in a dangerous part of town where there's no order, where women get raped, where shops get vandalized, where there's drugs on the streets, and I don't like it. It's unsafe. And I think to take the unsafe and the ugly from the urban experience and put it in a cathedral is not the way of doing the task that Stephen Kuhrt has admirably expressed. He's quite right. We need to find ways of articulating people's questions. So 8 out of 10 for working out there's a problem. absolute zero for the application of solving the problem like that. Wrong place to solve it. There are plenty of other places where you could take that kind of graffiti, like an underground car park in Peckham, get the kids who are pushing drugs on the street in Peckham into an underground car park, put that graffiti up, and maybe there'll be conversations, but they're not in Canterbury Cathedral.
Gavin here makes a great point. He says that young people are looking for high theology, high mass, the Latin mass. They're looking for beautiful things. They're not looking for graffiti sprayed all over a beautiful cathedral. The rector actually has it the exact opposite way. And maybe he's underestimating the people he's trying to reach.
More things the church can do, perhaps, maybe steer away from the graffiti ideas in the future, given the controversy around. Are other things the church can do to engage young people, where perhaps they could even ask young people what they would like to see as a way to engage them? Because I see in America they have apps as well, and those apps are doing exceptionally well. Surely it's just maybe reaching them through a new form of technology, perhaps.
I think it's trying every possible way to connect God with people's lives. And there are some people who love the traditional approach, and some people love a sort of more edgy, more modern approach. So tomorrow morning at my church, we'll have a 9:30 service, which is entirely child-friendly. But then at 11 o'clock, I'll have to completely change character and do the more traditional stuff. And I just want to do as much as possible to help as many people as possible to connect with the God who loves them. And Gavin wants to do the same. I think we're pretty much coming off the same page in what we're trying to do. But there will always be different approaches. And let's not forget, in Canterbury Cathedral in 1170, a certain Thomas à Becket was murdered because he didn't quite do what the king wanted. And the king may not have intended it quite, but 4 knights went and hacked him to death. So there's been controversy in Canterbury Cathedral before, and it survived that. I think it can survive this as well.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. Gavin, final thoughts from you. And I certainly agree with the previous statement you made. I think young people are yearning for theology. They're yearning for a return to teachings of the Bible, perhaps not too much on the art side of things. They've got plenty of places they can find that. What more can be done, particularly in trying to push young people to the church?
Well, first of all, I vote for Mr. Kuhrt to be made Dean of Canterbury. He'll do a very good job of it. But the next thing I'd say is, the thing is, Jesus is absolutely captivating. The problem is they don't know about Jesus. They haven't heard about him. Anyone who's met Jesus gets blown away by this extraordinary possibility that we were made for a reason, we've been given our life as gifts, and God's made it possible to know him in person. And Jesus is the way that's done it. Now, you can think of 1,000 ways of applying that, and good luck to it, but graffiti in Canterbury Cathedral doesn't take that a step further. Introduce people to Jesus, and you've begun a journey.
I think Gavin eloquently summarized this by saying the purpose here is to meet Jesus. He's exciting enough. We don't need graffiti all over the walls in order to be excited about Jesus. Please tell us your opinions, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you hear about our next video. Thank you, and God bless.